In the sunlit halls of Cyprus, where the sea whispered secrets to the shore and temples stood in honor of the gods, there lived a sculptor, unlike any other, Pygmalion. With hands gifted by the divine, he could shape cold marble into breathtaking forms, figures so lifelike they seemed ready to step from their stone prisons. But for all his skill, Pygmalion's heart remained untouched by love. He saw imperfection in the women of his world, flaws that turned his gaze away from flesh and toward art. So, with chisel in hand and devotion in his soul, he set to work, not to find love, but to create it. Day and night he sculpted, carving from the purest ivory a maiden of incomparable beauty. He gave her delicate hands, eyes that held silent wisdom, lips that seemed to whisper secrets to the wind. And when she was finished, Pygmalion stepped back, only to fall deeply, hopelessly in love. He named her Galatea, though she was but cold and lifeless. Yet in his heart she lived. He draped her in fine silks, placed golden bracelets upon her wrists, and whispered to her as if she could listen. He kissed her unmoving lips, aching for them to return his touch. But the ivory remained cold. The ache in his heart grew unbearable. And so, on the day of the great festival of Aphrodite, Pygmalion made his way to her sacred temple, where the air was thick with incense, and the flames of 100 torches danced in the wind. He knelt before the goddess's altar, his voice breaking as he prayed, "O gracious Aphrodite, if you can grant all things, let me find a wife who is the living likeness of my ivory maiden." His hands trembled as he placed his offering, a garland of the finest roses, upon the statue of the goddess. And in the stillness that followed, something unseen stirred in the air. Aphrodite had heard him. High upon her celestial throne, the goddess of love smiled. She had watched Pygmalion's devotion, seen the purity of his heart, and so, with the gentlest of gestures, she wove magic into the wind. Golden light cascaded from the heavens, drifting like enchanted petals, flowing toward Pygmalion's workshop. A hush fell over the world, a moment of divine anticipation. The sculptor, unaware of the miracle unfolding, returned home, his heart heavy with longing. But as he stepped into his workshop, a warm glow filled the room. The air shimmered, and before him stood Galatea, bathed in Aphrodite's blessing. With hesitant steps, Pygmalion approached his beloved sculpture. The golden light still clung to her, as if the sun itself had embraced her form. Something was different. His breath caught as he reached out, his fingers grazing her hand. Warmth. He gasped, pulling back in disbelief. Could it be? Trembling, he touched her again. The ivory had softened, yielding beneath his touch, and then she moved. A shudder ran through her once still form. Her chest rose with breath, her lips, once frozen, parted in silent wonder. Her eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes that had never seen the world before. And then she smiled. Pygmalion staggered backward, overcome with joy, disbelief, and awe. "Galatea," he whispered, his voice barely more than a breath. She looked at him, and in her gaze was not just understanding, but love. A love as deep as the devotion that had brought her to life. Without hesitation, Pygmalion rushed forward, gathering her in his arms. She was real, she was warm, she was alive, and she loved him back. Galatea held him just as tightly, her heart beating against his for the first time. Around them, the last traces of Aphrodite's blessing lingered in the air, fading like the final notes of a divine melody. The sculptor who had once sought perfection in lifeless stone had now found something far greater, a soul entwined with his own. From that moment on, they were inseparable, their love not forged from chisel and marble, but from something far more powerful. a miracle of the gods. Before the sacred altar of Aphrodite, Pygmalion and Galatea were wed, their hands clasped as golden flower petals rained down upon them. The temple was filled with music, lyres playing soft melodies in celebration of their love. Galatea stood radiant in a flowing white gown, her hair adorned with golden leaves, a goddess in her own right. And Pygmalion, once a man lost in the solitude of his art, now stood beside her, whole at last. Aphrodite watched from above, pleased with the love she had brought into the world. And so the sculptor and his creation became legend, a tale of devotion, artistry, and the divine power of love. For sometimes the heart's deepest desires, whispered in longing, can stir even the gods.